What's going on, guys? We're going to continue this talking a little bit about what to look for in new members and some effective ways of vetting people through a couple of different processes that we use. So we can start this out talking about the fact that a hang-around phase is not a prospecting phase. So the way that we do things and the model that we've chosen to follow involves both of those. The hang-around phase essentially is sort of where you've met somebody, maybe you like that person, maybe you're not too sure about them, they want to come and hang around. That's exactly what they do. You use this phase, which can sort of, there's no limit on it, you know, it can be anywhere from a few months to a year or whatever, or as long as several years. You know, I've had friends of mine that have hung out with me for years before they decided, you know, or we decided that prospecting was a good idea for them. So what you use the hang around phase for is to try to ascertain positive and negative characteristics of that person. Everybody has positive and negative characteristics. You know, even the best people that I know have stuff about them, you know, that's definitely negative. But what you try to look at is you try to see whether or not those negatives are sort of toxic negatives that you just don't want to deal with, or whether those negatives are sort of run-of-the-mill stuff that you can work around. And then you want to figure out about that person, you know, what would they be good for? You know, would they mesh with the group? Are they right for it? In the Wolves, we have a really specific criteria that makes it really difficult for people to even pass through this hang-around stage. So, you know, a few things, you know, just a couple of points to look at with people, and the sort of folks that you definitely want to avoid ever bringing in past the hang-around phase are joiners who are looking to change the group. This can be a kind of tricky one to see, but a lot of times people will come in and they will immediately start to try to like change group dynamic, or they'll come in and have sort of a lot of their own ideas about the way that things should be done, or any of this kind of stuff. And oftentimes you won't see this in the hang-around phase, but you will see it in the prospecting phase. It's important to remember, and for these people to remember, that you're not joining them, they're joining you. That's a phrase that we use a lot. You know, if somebody wants things to be different in your organization, you can remind them that, hey, look, this thing's been going smooth for over 10 years or a year or 2 years or whatever, and that it was doing that before you were here. So if you don't like things the way that they are, fuck off. You know, a lot of people will try to come in and sort of angle their way in and make friendships and all this kind of stuff and turn them against each other or whatever. And this is sort of the second type of person that you want to avoid, which is sycophants and drama mongers. A lot of times you'll get yes men who will come in who will try to attach themselves really closely to people who are on the upper echelon of the group, but nobody else really, because they want to have that little connection with the guys that they perceive to be at the top. So they'll act as yes men for those dudes, while at the same time maybe trying to poison you a little bit against some of the other guys. The minute that anybody who's not in the organization starts saying anything negative about other people who are in the organization, get the fuck rid of them. Those people are absolutely the worst to have around, and usually those are the kind of people who, once they wind up outside the group, wind up trying to tear down the group from outside. We've had this sort of thing happen with not only several hang-arounds, but several former prospects who even made it past the hang-around phase. So you want to avoid chronically negative, bad luck sort of people. You know, if they don't have their shit together in their personal life, again, get them the fuck out. Guys who are always losing jobs, you know, who never seem to have their own money, who maybe are always dealing with issues and are always trying to rely on other people, they can't pull their weight, cut them loose. Usually that's pretty easy to see in the hang-around phase. You know, just sort of pay attention to how things are in their personal lives. If they're always dealing with some kind of big hang-up, chances are it's not their surroundings, it's them. So if you can avoid those sorts of people, then you can keep looking at characteristics through the hang-around phase. After you get to know people a little bit more, you're going to look for things like people who are inconsistent. A lot of guys will show you within the first year of knowing them that they jump from thing to thing a lot, or they're very inconsistent in their loyalty or their goals. That's something you want to watch out for. Those are guys who will usually maybe try to join something and then they'll quit within a short amount of time. And another one that's a really important person to try and avoid is gossipers. if people are always messaging you talking about, oh, hey, so-and-so said this or that, or hey, like, keep this between you and me, but, and then they talk shit about somebody, chances are they're talking shit about you too. That's a real big red flag, and you want to weed those kind of people out early on, because those are the kind of people who are literally just gathering information and probably like screenshotting conversations to use against you and all this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of people out there who, if they feel like you've passed them over, they're going to use the information that they have about you or about your organization, especially if they've made it to the prospecting phase, to try to tear down something. Because a lot of these people get very embittered or very jealous about stuff, and so it's this weird impulse that they have to like tear down an existing structure instead of just creating something of their own. So those are a lot of the real upfront negative stuff that you're going to see with people. So once people get past the hang around phase and you say, okay, this person is still like exhibiting positive characteristics and their negatives are something we can work with, the prospecting phase is where you begin to instill group value on these people. When they're a hang around, they kind of have no real connection other than just they hang around. Once they start prospecting, they're representing you. So even if you guys don't wear patches or whatever it is, you know, in our organization, you know, you have a top rocker, you know, and a prospect rocker, and wherever they go, they're representing you because people see that top rocker and they don't know the difference. So it's really important that you begin to instill group values in those people, and you say, hey, look, here's the deal. People outside of groups, you know, the constant lone wolf guys or whatever, who are like, I'm too fucking cool to join a group and all this, they always call this kind of stuff like hive mind or groupthink or whatever. And it is groupthink. But groupthink is not a negative thing when you're talking about a crew, a tribe, whatever. The entire reason you clan together with people is because you are like-minded, which is another way of saying groupthink. You know, and that's why it's important to weed people out who don't fit in or mesh with the overall mission and the overall ideals and values of your group. Prospecting phase is a great place to see this. You know, you want guys who are workers, who are pulling their weight, who bring skills to the table and all this kind of stuff, who don't have a problem with authority in the existing hierarchy of a structure, because they know that they will one day work their way through that, but that as a prospect, their job is to learn about the group, to understand what it is, to understand its values, and to embody those values. That's what prospecting is for. You know, and even once somebody gets past the prospecting phase in our club, you know, they undergo a period of time until the next guy patches in. That person is what we call junior patch. And yes, they're a full patch member and they've gone through these, you know, initiation rites and all this kind of stuff. But it's there to remind them that even once they've earned that center patch, your existence in this club, from guys who have started it and who are founders all the way on down, is to serve the other guys in the club. So if you're a brother, if you're family, the idea is that you are there because you are serving your club in a specific way. And so, you know, the junior patch phase is to remind them of that. It's like, yeah, you have a patch now, but you are still here to serve the club, just like I am. So looking for a lot of those behaviors is a lot of stuff that you can avoid pretty shitty stuff happening to you down the road. And I think as far as positive characteristics, you know, if you don't know what those are, you probably shouldn't be in this position of organizing crew and stuff like that. I mean, there's a million things to think about, whether you use Jack Donovan's, you know, tactical virtues, that's a good place to start. But I mean, if you're not a good judge of character, if you're a terrible judge of character, then your crew is not going to last very long anyway. So find people who mesh with you, weed out people with toxic attributes, and keep a close eye on sycophants, drama mongers, gossipers, and people who want to come in and then, you know, sort of change the organization around to where they want to go. So next time we'll talk a little bit more about the prospecting phase and about what that's going to mean, and maybe certain ways of using the prospecting phase, and also sort of rites of passage once people get all the way into the club at large. So I hope you guys are getting something out of these, and once again, comments and hate mail and all that kind of stuff or whatever can go right here. Thank you.